Hello, everybody. So I was listening to a podcast the other day about conspiracy theories. It was that actualized.org that I'm always rabbiting on about, and they were talking. He was talking about how I'm not going saying that the Lorne saga is a conspiracy. By the way, it's not where I'm going with this, but he was talking about how people believe in conspiracy theories for various reasons and the psychology behind it. Very, very interesting. It's on YouTube if you're interested. If you can't find it, put a message if you want to watch it on the comments, and I'll post a link. Anyway, and during the podcast, he was talking about how it's just a distraction. Generally, conspiracies. It's funny as well, actually, because I went out to my friend runs a bar. So I went there last night before we'd gone into lockdown in Manchester, just to have a quick drink with him. Well, I said drink, but I was on the orange cordial, and I ordered an orange and got some quite hostile reactions from people, which was not specifically surprising, I suppose. But he was he was going on about conspiracies. My friend who owned the bar, I've known him a long time. Very strange character, but I think he'd been drinking for a couple of hours at least. He was on his way to being drunk, and he's got rid of his smartphone. He doesn't have Facebook because the world orders after you and all this kind of stuff. And the coronavirus is a hoax. Well, not a hoax, but a deliberate orchestration to impose a new world order. Now, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm not interested in starting a debate about anything. I just know that I don't. That something doesn't add up with all this to me. The government, whether it's just plain incompetence on behalf of the government, the reaction to it just doesn't make any sense, especially over here. But anyway, I don't want to start political discussions or anything like that. But anyway, he was going on about these conspiracy theories, and it was just like, dude, you're going too far with this. And it's generally, it's a deliberate. It's usually a convenient distraction for people. These type of things. If you notice, the ones that believe in these conspiracies are generally, forgive my crudeness, losers. Basically, what I would define as someone like that is someone who just wastes their time doing, someone who would spend every free minute they've got playing computer games. That's what I would define as a loser. There's nothing wrong with playing computer games if it's a little bit of fun. But these people, I remember encountering one in the city centre once. He was just like, his whole head was swimming with all these conspiracy theories. It's just a distraction. And it got me thinking about, how we find distractions in life to, convenient distractions to, so that we don't have to do all the real hard work, which is to work on oneself, to, improve. You should always strive to be better than what you are. Everybody has got room for improvement. More people, some more than others. I'm sorry. I hope he doesn't. He might listen to this, but dude, if you're listening, don't let your head swell up. But luckily, he doesn't have much of an ego anyway. But Shin is a good example of someone who doesn't really have much. He's already a well-rounded guy. He's been through a lot in his life. Whereas I've got a lot of work to do. Do you know what I mean? I've got lots of little insecurities and little failings and judgments that I have about people, things that I've got to work on all the time, but I'm always mindful. I always catch myself when I'm doing it. It's like I was at work today, and there was I can't go into detail about what it is for various reasons, and no one's fucking interested anyway. It's not exciting, but basically there was a bit of conflict between myself and another establishment about something. And this go-between guy rang me up, and he was on the side of the other establishment, and I had to hold my position and say, no, this isn't the way it should be done. I think it should be done this way. And I found myself, during that conversation, getting emotional. When really, what I was doing is, a sense of myself was caught up in it. My ego was caught up in it because I wanted to be right. And it was irrelevant. And I managed to catch myself, calm down, and the situation was resolved brilliantly. And I'm not saying it was brilliant because of me. The only reason it happened is because I managed to calm down. And I stopped myself and realised I was losing it a little bit. Not like I wasn't screaming and shouting. It's just I could feel the emotion building up. And I just remember thinking, why am I defending any kind of mental position? It's fucking irrelevant. At the end of the day, the situation was what's in everybody's best interests. And that's the kind of thing that everybody should be striving for. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend every minute of your life being serious, and you have to, that's not healthy. You've got to have fun. It's like I think I have a pretty good balance with things, and taking, using these videos as an example. I have a decent amount of humour within them, but, I can do silly videos talking about Lorne's silly gaffes, but also, the serious topics as well. And I think life should be like that as well. It's the purpose of life is to find the balance. You're balancing everything. You have a good amount of productivity, creativity, health, friendship. That's what it's all about. Not being too selfish, but yet not being too selfless. Because if you're too selfless, then you might not be looking after yourself well, and then you'll end up fucking in hospital or dying or something. And what good are you going to do anybody then? But it got me thinking about one of the things he said about when people use conspiracy theories as a distraction. It was really interesting because what he says is like, because Lorne's full of conspiracy theories, isn't he? About, if you think about like his conspiracy about NBC got him busted on his birthday, perverted justice, that fucking the guy, I can never remember his name, that what's his face geezer, the guy that started it. They're all, in his brain, they're all in league to get him busted on his birthday, because that's what people like Lorne do. Rather than face up to the truth and look within, they look externally to find in the world the actual reason that it's all happened. It's not because of his actions and his inadequacies and the failings that he needs to work upon. It's all external. It's all the evil that he thinks is happening is all within him. And it's the same for everybody, and it's difficult to hear that. Every time you identify something as being evil, it's because it's within you. And what that means is like, nothing is really truly evil as you think it is. Everything happens for a certain reason. The murderers. I don't want to go on about that too much. I know people strongly disagree with that perspective, and that's all it is, a perspective. But the world is an inner phenomenon. Everything that happens within you. It's the only thing that you can be sure of is that you are aware. Everything else is just an image or a thought. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's interesting with Lorne's kind of, coming up with these conspiracies. Is a perfect example. It's just his mind runs away with him. It's easier for him to do it. It's the easy road for him to blame everybody else. And one of the things he said that when I was listening to the podcast about the conspiracy theories is that, like, what that does is, in Lorne's case, NBC, it puts him in a position of moral superiority. In superiority in every aspect. So if he's thinking about like, perverted justice got paid $1,000 an episode or whatever it was, it 10,000, I can't remember. Which, I don't think there was any secret behind that. They wanted to get fucking paid, cover expenses. Those people need wages, whatever. It was an agreement between two parties. Perverted justice probably went, all right, will you pay us such and such, and then fucking NBC came back and said, no, we'll pay you half, and then they went, all right, no problem. And then they agreed it. And that's an agreement between two parties. If they are getting overpaid and blowing half the money on holidays, who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? I don't give a fuck, do you? Well, it's like, as long as it's not totally corrupt and they're spending all that money on drugs and paedophile rings, the irony. But Lorne had to turn that into evil, because then he's the one that's right. Even though, I mean, as ludicrous as it sounds, this is a guy who got... I sounded like Chris Hansen then, didn't it? This is a guy... Have you know those long words that he has? This is a guy that got busted for trying to screw a child in the most humiliating of circumstances. Caught red-handed doesn't do that situation justice. I mean, goodness gracious. It's like, if you was good, it's like Cluedo, if you was going to come up with... Have you seen that Simpsons where... the one where Bart's Comet is called, right? Where they're like, there's that comet coming towards Earth, right? And during the episode, Bart makes like a balloon of Skinner, doesn't he? Like Skinner's big butt or something, and he sees it in the sky. It goes, "Hi, I'm Big Butt Skinner," and then Skinner goes to Bart, says, "Bart, turn out your pockets." He immediately suspected, so Bart goes, "Okay, but I failed to see," and then he turns his pockets out, and there's blueprints of the dummy, photographs of him making the dummy. He goes, let's see, blueprints of the dummy, photographs of you making the dummy. It's like, and as Bart's doing it, he's going, "I failed to see." That's like, you had to buy into the fact that everything that was in his pocket that would get him stitched up with it was there, and that's the situation with Lorne, isn't it? Because it's like, what? It's just, so you've got the chat log, right? You got the whole chat log within itself, which let's just say that Lorne claimed that chat log. Let's just say that Lorne claimed that chat log was fabricated. That's exactly what he did. He didn't claim it was all fabricated because he couldn't stretch that far, because he's not completely insane. He is insane, but he's not clinically insane to the point where he can't function in life, where he's walking around thinking clowns are dancing on his ears every 5 minutes. I don't know where that came from, but he even had to say that chat log was edited. But let's just say that he claimed the whole thing, that chat log never existed and that he never wrote a word. It would have to be a piece of pure genius, because it would, basically, you'd say, hang on a minute, it said you slept on the floor, and yet here we are, and there's no mattress in your room. This chat log also has intimate details about your life. It tells details about your family. It's, talking about your dog's names. Who would have wrote this without knowing that personal information of yours, Lon? So in other words, just that chat log alone will be 100% undeniable proof within a court of law on its own, with no other evidence, and he will get sent to prison just for that chat log. You also have him actually turning up at the house. It's on camera. He speaks to Chris Hansen. He admits what he did. He admits what he was there for. The language isn't overt. He says, and then Chris Hansen goes, "Lorne, you brought condoms." And he goes, "I know." He admits what he did. He had condoms in his truck. He produced pornography. What I mean by that is he sent images of himself. So you've got somebody that you would just throw your towel in the ring, wouldn't you? You give up, right? Okay, I'm doomed. I'm guilty. You'd plead guilty immediately and see if the court could throw mercy upon you, which is what he did after legal, consultation. But then, what did the motherfucker do after he went to court? Oh, he went back on that. It wasn't his fault he pleaded guilty. He was incorrectly advised by his by his legal team, and he failed to take into account the entrapment issue. So his legal team have kind of conspired against him. NBC conspired against him. Perverted Justice conspired against him. His family, even. Everybody. All these conspiracies. And why was it? Because he doesn't want to do the inner work. He doesn't want to. And it's a common, if probably the most common trait in the world, which is the number one problem with people these days, is they will not look within when there is a problem. People, we are not very good at inner work, the real inner work, to truly evaluate. And it's difficult. Even as something as, think about road rage. It's a perfect example of that, because it's the one thing that gets normal people under normal circumstances go fucking mental. Someone cuts you up in traffic and you go crazy. Even when you've made a mistake, your ego automatically will refuse to take responsibility for that, and you'll look for excuses of blaming that person. Sometimes it will be. Even when you make it, it's like, how many times does someone do something in the road to you, and they won't, they'll cut you up or they'll pull out on you when they shouldn't have done because they didn't see you. No one, very, very few people will hold their hands up to you and apologise. They'll just say nothing. And then you'll react to them because you're pissed off because you've got a flood of emotion. And it's the same. That's a minor example, but that works on a massive scale with regard to your life. And Lorne's is the perfect example for that. Everything that he concocted in his mind about what happened. It's like ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous to suggest that this is why the Lorne story, the Lorne saga is so interesting, because it's the most humorous, craziest of circumstances that he's caught in the most blatant of circumstances, undeniable, absolutely undeniable what he tried to do, but yet he continues to profess his innocence. It's absolutely crazy, but it's quite simple, that because he has this inability to look inwards, he externalizes everything. There's nothing. Every single thing that happened to him was the fault of somebody else. He was vulnerable. His family betrayed him. He was manipulated. It was his birthday. They got paid $10,000 to every single person, every single constituency, every single group, everybody conspired to get him stitched up. It's remarkable. But it's a microcosm of the human condition, of the lack of Lorne. This is why we're interested, because Lorne is a caricaturesque example of it. And humorous. Caricatures are humorous, and Lorne is humorous. He's almost like not real in a way. When I was like in court, I don't mean this to dehumanize him, because he is a human being and he's no more or less human than me and you. But it's almost like he was a cartoon character. It's very odd. He's a very strange creature. He really is. But this kind of, we had me and my group of friends, right? We had to get I might have mentioned this before. We had to have a bit of a chat with this guy within it. I can't go into detail about what it was because one of them might be listening. But he's exhibited behaviour over the last couple of years which we found ridiculously disturbing, and we wouldn't have been friends if we hadn't brought it up to him. So he came round. And we tried to, just have a word and dance around the subject, and then it was fucking left to me, like it always is, to bring up this topic. And I brought it up in a non-confrontational, respectful, and just a general topic, general conversation way. And his voice started quivering. He was getting emotional. In his immediate reaction wasn't to say you've got a point, and trust me when I say we fucking did have a point. I wish I could mention what it is, but I can't run the risk that one of those him would be listening. But do you know his immediate reaction was, well, you're opinionated. And he said that to me, and I wasn't, and I was like, well, okay, I am, but of course I am opinionated, otherwise I wouldn't have a fucking YouTube channel where I rabbit on. But it was like, that's an immediate, the ego's defending itself. It can't afford to be vulnerable. And it seems, the irony is, when you admit your vulnerabilities, it's a sign of strength. But the ego is so flimsy and so at risk from everything. It's in a constant, when the ego, it's like, I hate to mention his name because someone tried getting into the bloody political aspect on the last video and tried getting me involved in a political discussion, which is, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I have absolutely no interest in a fucking, the thing, it's like the conspiracies about, Trump and the government and all that. It's fucking completely irrelevant unless you are going to do something about it. If you wish to do something about it and raise an army or whatever, or become a politician, go nuts. Great. Unless then you're just wasting your fucking time. If you prove one of these conspiracy theories, like, I'll pick one that nobody can bite at. The moon landing, right? If you think that was fake, I have no feelings one way or the other. I don't know enough about it. I was just using this as an example because I don't want anybody to start getting on their high horse. Let's just say you prove it was fake, and who gives a fuck? I mean, it's probably a bad example, actually, because they'd be lying to the public. But what difference would that make to your life, really? Nothing. You know what I mean? So we, this kind of like, when we got him round and we explained, excuse me, it kind of ended with nothing was resolved, and we were ganging up on him and stuff, and it was a difficult position he was in, but like, it was just someone who's incredibly immature in their own development. They're not. If a group of people came up to me, and I've known them all my life, and they all sat down and said, "Listen, there's a problem here," I'd be like, "Oh shit, you're right." You know what I mean? I'd certainly like to think that. I always admit when I fucked up. I've done some pretty fucking shitty things in my life. There's no fucking doubt about that whatsoever. Luckily, nothing that compares to Lorne's endeavours. But it's a complicated issue, the Lorne situation. That's why I like it so much. It isn't as black and white as what people like to think. Oh, he's bad and he did bad, that's the end of it. I suppose from a certain perspective, that is true. He has to pay for what he's done. He has done. But, it's not just a case of he was born evil, what led him down that path, and, what crazy decisions that he made. But with him, he's got this same level of you see, it's such an easier life in the short term if you don't take responsibility. To really take responsibility and look within and admit your deepest, biggest failings is very difficult. It takes an awful lot of maturity, and you have to have transcended the ego to a certain degree. I was going to use Trump as an example, but like I said, I'm wary about bringing up topics of conversation. But he is a good example to use, not in a comparative way to Lorne with regard to these people are worlds apart, but the same ego structures are in place. It's the human ego is it's the same thing in everybody. It's interesting. Like I've been doing, I've been listening to the debates and all that, and it's interesting stuff. How can you not be intrigued? Not interested in going to the local bar and talking about it over beers, because what an ultimate waste of fucking time. You know what I mean? But it's interesting. I'm a studier of human behaviour, And that's what I find interesting. So yeah, but with Lorne, is there any? Could he at this point? Is it too late for him to do anything about this? It's not too late at all for somebody, but it is too late for him in that he's his whole kind of persona, if you want to say, his whole identity now is deeply ingrained. His whole. This is why, if you met him, you wouldn't want to be around him. He'd give this aura. You'd just be able to detect it, because his whole identity is built around being wronged and being a victim. And the problem with that is, you're going to think that the world is a pretty bad place and people are bad. You're going to be suspicious of everybody. You're never going to trust anybody, and you're going to be insecure. So always wise to be on your guard, because I don't trust most people. Not probably. I'm pretty good at detecting when people have got a big ego, and it's not difficult to detect. And I know what people's mind structures are like, so it's always good to be aware and never expect people to be perfect. Always be mindful that they are going to let you down and they are going to say stupid things, but you also forgive them, because you realise they're not really, when you're in the grip of the ego, you haven't really got a fucking clue what you're doing. That the ego is in charge, as it is with Lorne. But he has a choice. He knows what he's doing to a certain degree. It's a strange thing to articulate accurately. The carnal mind is in charge, but yet he allows it to be. He's not interested in doing the inner work, because of how hard it is. And this is the thing of why it probably is too late for Lorne, is that, you listening to this and me, we can do the inner work. I'm sure that some people listening to this have got some demons and things that they've done that they think, maybe it's really too hard to face up to those. But just imagine having to face up to what Lorne did. It's a complicated issue with regard to his attraction to minors. If he's got this genetic issue, I'm not sure if he is like a McFetridge type character, but you're born with that. And if you have to suppress that for your whole life, it's incredibly dangerous. It's like, attraction to children, what these people have to deal with. There's no solution to that. They just get, when they act upon the attractions, they get punished. And rightly so, because children get harmed. But there's no solution. I'm not saying I have the answer, but, you have these treatment clinics and stuff like that. Christ knows what'll happen, but you can't stop these people from being born, who are born with these attractions. What do you do with them? They just imagine if you were born, and the only way you could get off is by stimulation from younger people, images or whatever, and you had to suppress that. And I mean, I don't know how it works. Do these people, can they not get stimulated by adults at all? I probably should check that out, but I'm not in the habit of talking to. But anyway, but yeah. So just imagine that because the thing is, we've all got a chance of liberation to transcend the ego, and it's a paradox in that it's the easiest thing to do, and it's also the hardest thing to do at the same time. All the ego is one big no. Once you surrender to everything and you accept everything instantaneously as it is, and you don't put any barriers, that's when you let go. And there's a lot to identify in the world. There's a lot going on at the minute. You're going to be pissed off at the way that politicians are behaving towards the virus. There's hardships everywhere. There's wars. There's a lot to get pissed off about. I mean, I was watching, I think I've watched the first, I'm again with the politics, but I do apologise. The Trump-Biden debate. You've got two guys, right, who were competing for the presidency of the position of probably the most powerful person in the world, you would hope and think that these people would be enlightened. And the way, I mean, it was. I've heard some of the second one. It was definitely a bit more civilized, but that first one was like two children having a go at each other. These are people that are supposed to be in charge of the free world. I mean, oh my god, no wonder this fucking planet's screwed. It's like, it's pathetic, like mudslinging and insulting them and telling each other to shut up. It's fucking ludicrous to think that these are the people that are going to lead the world, and they are behaving like, I mean, Trump to a major degree, and Biden, look, I don't want to comment, but you get the point I'm making. It's actually fucking silly that these people, are the ones that and they can't even have a civilized conversation, and everything. They're fucking pointless, them debates. Absolutely pointless, because you don't get any truth. You don't believe a fucking word either of them are saying. It's just entertaining. And they rabbit on, and it's just them, and this manipulation as well. I even heard Biden talking about it when he was... I'm going to stop with the political stuff. Yeah, but you get the point I'm making. Yeah, so, I mean, what would Lorne be able to have one big no? No. I mean, he could, but he can't at the same time. It would mean his death. It would mean the death of the ego, and the ego is in control. There could be a certain set of circumstances that will force him into it. An extreme physical hardship could happen when he's an old man. You know what could happen? He could be sat in a hospital, and I don't wish this upon him. I don't wish this upon anyone. He could be sat in a hospital, well, maybe some people. He could be sat in a hospital with a terrible ill disease, and he's dying, and he's in terrible pain, and death is luring the corner. And then he has a realisation. He's like, oh my fucking God, it's all bollocks. It's all bullshit. It does happen. It's happened to people in situations even more extreme than Lorne's, where they have had near-death experiences, they've been on death row, they have been murderers, and they have seen the error of their ways, and they're like, oh my God, it was all bullshit all along. It does happen. I just don't see it happening in Lorne's case. He's too much of a two-dimensional being at the minute. Like, and his character is too flimsy. But it could, like I said, under a certain set of circumstances, but let's just say that he was listening to this video, right? He wouldn't be listening. He wouldn't interpret the words that you probably are, or that I intend them to be. It's not. He would see it that, oh, Andrew Burkett, you fucking piece of shit. He'd be like, I'm insulting him, and just having a go for the sake of having a go. Well, I suppose you could say, have I insulted him? But I don't see it as being anything other than the truth. He wouldn't see it like that. It would all be, these internet weirdos are wasting the time talking about him, which might be true. Bullying, harassing, talking shit, piece of shit, won't leave me alone, I'm the cause of it all, these internet weirdos that won't leave him alone, they've ruined his life. It's all, that's what he would hear. He wouldn't really hear it. So, is it too late for him? For a start, he's not going to find liberation at the bottom of a bottle of beer. But slowly as things, as he loses family members, and he starts losing his health and his mobility, and he becomes an old man, that's the natural part of life where you let go. It could happen when he's a really old man, you know what I mean? And he's like, because when you become like that and you're shitting yourself, and you can't fucking get to the bathroom anymore, and I was going to say your hair's falling out. You get the point. There's no room for ego. That's when ego, what are you going to have ego when you've just shat yourself, sat down? Sorry to be crude, but it's true. Lorne would probably develop some kind of crazy conspiracy about it, but yeah, I mean that's generally why life does those kind of things. That, in my experience, and that I can't speak for every eventuality and circumstance in the world but in my experience, things generally happen as some kind of a lesson somewhere. Lorne does the world does try and push Lorne in a certain direction every now and again, but he never listens. This is where we get our entertainment from, isn't it? It's very intriguing, shall we say. Anyway, is it too late? You make your own mind up. I think I've gone off on one a few times, as you usually do. This was just a kind of spur of the moment one video, but I do like these every now and again. So please let me know, guys, if you've enjoyed this. I apologise for stepping into the political landmarks a little bit too much. I don't enjoy doing that because, like I said, these I'm not really interested. It's just sometimes it's interesting in what's going on in the world as a point of comparison, and it's something that everybody knows a certain degree of, But anyway, I hope you're doing well. Hopefully there'll be some streams coming up in the near future if you're still enjoying them. So yeah, take it easy. I'll speak to you soon.